Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, we welcome back a couple old friends, Jonas Porcar, Ferrer, and Bhavin Patel. Of course, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know we've been featuring an ongoing series of conversations with Jonas and Bhavin as we follow them through their time in Darden's Executive MBA program. This interview is the fifth installment in this series, and we caught up with them recently to talk a little bit more about Quarter 8, Quarter 9, as well as Quarter 10, and what they are looking forward to as they close out the program. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation, so without further ado, here is my fifth interview with Jonas Porcar Ferrer and Bhavin Patel. Jonas, Bhavin, welcome back to the podcast. We are really going where this podcast has never been before. We are now in your fifth episode, recording this here today. I should say this evening. This has also become something of a staple of these conversations that it's dark outside. We're sitting here, Sands Family Grounds, on the back end of a residency day, sitting down. I'm obviously deeply appreciative of your taking the time out of your evening to be here and share your story. It must be thrilling, though. Fifth episode means that you are almost done. We're sitting here Quarter 10. How does that feel, Jonas?
Feels great. Like we see the light at the end of the tunnel. No, just kidding. That feels great. That I can't believe that we've gone through all this. I mean, it's amazing that we are that this far in the program already, and we're about to, we're already talking about graduation and and the last quarter and the last residency. So I really cannot believe that we're in this moment. Yeah.
Bhavin, we just sat through a presentation about being an alum. That must feel kind of exciting to see. Here we are, Quarter 10, graduation on the horizon. People are starting to talk to you about alumni activities. How does that feel to you?
It feels unreal, but at the same time, I know the end is in sight. We graduate in a couple months here, and I fully echo Jonas's comments there. I'm absolutely excited to graduate. I've learned a lot here. I professionally and personally have seen a lot of positive changes, both within myself and, on the career front. Recently, I got a new job in consulting, and I think that I can attribute that to my experiences at Darden here. So I'm just super excited.
Well, congratulations. Always fun
Thank
to
you.
share that news here on the podcast. So, we've got a lot to talk about. Last time you were here, just to fill in our listeners, if you have not heard Jonas and Bhavin's previous episodes, encourage you to go back all the way to the beginning, where they were just brand new Darden students. The last time you were here, though, we were talking about quarters 6 and 7. And we're now going to talk about quarters 8 and 9. And just a quick recap, quarter 6, global quarter for y'all. Bhavin, you were in Europe. And Jonas, you were here in Roslyn. Quarter 7 was a core quarter, domestic quarter. Everybody here in Roslyn. Now that brings us to quarter 8. Now this is an exciting quarter because you both were abroad in India. So the global quarter for your class. You're both in India. So, Bhavin, you're a GEMBA student, right? You were always going to go to India. Start with Jonas and ask the question, why India?
Well, I've already been to Europe. Obviously, I'm from Spain, so I've traveled around Europe. I've already been in China 10 years ago, and Brazil was a little bit early for me in the program, so I said, okay, India makes sense, not because of that, but also I was very interested on a country that's really growing so fast, and I was very curious about meeting and getting there and seeing with my own eyes this country. That it's really amazing.
It is the trip that Lottie Carr says is her favorite global residency because it gets everybody out of their comfort zone. Bhavin, we were talking a little bit before the podcast. You're from India. To go back to India now as a business school student, what was that like?
It was really absolutely amazing, and to my surprise, actually, because as we were preparing for the trip, I was just kind of reflecting back on what I experienced so far and in the program, visiting other countries, right? Brazil, China, Europe, and I was really not really hoping for a major surprise, but I was actually very surprised, to be honest. And that's all thanks to Darden and the program team who's put together this awesome experiences while we were in India. And we can talk in detail, but I think high level, it was more just from business perspective, right? We were able to visit companies and have fun while learning, in India and in Mumbai and Delhi. So overall, it was a great experience for me and actually an eye-opener from business perspective.
One of the things that is a big storyline for the program this past fall was a number of global updates. So we were also talking about this. India is still on the list of places that we'll travel to with the class of 2022, but those students will have 12 global residency locations from which to choose. There are 4 travel periods. There are 3 concurrent trips per travel period. India is on the list, but so are Ghana, Israel, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, Estonia, Finland. I mean, it's an incredible. Also, should note Brazil, Argentina, Cuba, at least in an early draft of the list. We're still, obviously, we got a little while to go before anybody has to choose a global residency. So still finalizing the list and firming things up. But it's an incredible slate of destinations, every continent represented. And you have the classic locations, right? You have Brazil still there. China will still likely be there. Europe as well, and India, but a lot of additional places built onto that. And so that's been a really exciting storyline to be able to present more choice. I know the 4 locations that we've always had, great, but that was one of the big storylines for us this fall.
Yeah, and I'm just excited that as much as, I feel like, I missed out on some of the new developments, but I feel like, for the new students who are coming in, I think, they'll just have more exciting opportunities to explore those countries and just learn a lot more. So I'm just excited for the program as a whole.
Well, what we say is, if as an alum you feel maybe a little bit envious of the people who come behind you, then I think we're maybe doing some good things, right? We're listening to you. We're trying to take the feedback. And a lot of the updates that we made around sort of global residencies, global experiences, were driven by student feedback. The locations, no accident that we came up with those locations. Those were places that people said, have you ever thought about going here? It would be really interesting to go to this place. And also some of the structural changes around what's happening on a global residency. Also, and sort of driven by feedback. We've heard from students for a number of years that while they enjoy having the core classes abroad, what they really want to do is experience the location. And now the global residencies will be fully focused on immersing in that location. No more core curriculum abroad. So we'll function more like an elective course with the topic and sort of, the designed around where you are in the world. So I share that with both of you as information for you and also our listeners who've been listening to these ongoing conversations saying like, man, Bhavin has gone some really interesting places. These trips sound great. I'm thinking about doing Gemba now and should know where you can go.
If I had known, I think that was a common comment among the EMBAs. Like everybody was saying, okay, if I had known this, maybe I had applied for Gemba instead of EMBA, because it's really amazing experience. So yeah, everybody was thinking, yeah, I should have done the Gemba.
Absolutely. Once you go on one trip, typically you say, I would like to do more than one, and maybe even wish I would have been a full Gemba. And there is now more flexibility to add additional global residencies because of the increased number of trips.
I think one thing I would like to add there to Jonas's comment is, the reason there is a perspective shift within EMBAs is because they're seeing that we're as Gembas, global executive students, we're there together for residencies, right? So it allows for more opportunities and more touch points to connect on a personal basis, and I think that also provides an opportunity for personal and professional growth. So I think I would just like to also mention that.
No, that's a great point. We know that when students get outside the country and they are, in India, they're in China, they're in these locations, everybody's removed from their everyday environment. You're all together. And, one of the reasons why Lottie really, as I mentioned, loves India and loves taking students to India is that it's, it challenges people in a lot of ways. You are outside of, what, if you live here in DC, what you know every single day and what your experience is. So Jonas, I'm curious, you had mentioned that you'd spent time in some of the other global residency locations. India was new to you. What was that like?
It was amazing. You can feel the cultural shock at the moment you just jump on the taxi and you go to the hotel on the craziness and the chaos happening and somehow it works. But I don't know, somehow I loved it. I remember me and Bhavin driving tuk-tuks around Delhi, and I don't know, sometimes for some people it could be scary, but I was enjoying it a lot. And also having the chance, we divided in groups, and I visited the economic advisor to the government. So we discussed the different policies that they're pursuing in terms of reducing poverty, in terms of increasing investments on infrastructures. And it's a country that's changing very, very fast. And it's 1.3 billion people living there. It's the largest democracy around the world. So somehow you realize that the future belongs to India, and they welcome foreign people, and it's just a great culture, very, very diverse in terms of religions, in terms of beliefs, in terms of and I don't know, it was overall a great experience. Also, I'd like to mention the food is amazing. I already knew that, but when you're there, and especially we were staying in this brand of hotels, the Oberoi, which are I think it's the best hotel experience I've had in my life, and it was just amazing. So all in all, it was a great experience, and I don't know. I think Bhavin will talk about the company visits that we had. They were great, the cases. So yeah, I want to go back. I think that sums it up. The moment I have some time, I really want to go and meet some other parts of the country. Although I stayed longer, and so several groups we stayed longer, and we went to Agra and Jaipur. We went to the Taj Mahal, and we did some tourism after the program. So, but I still want more India, and I don't know. I think I fell in love with the country, so it was great.
High praise for a global residency. I think that's the goal, right? We want you to come back. So Bhavin, we've started to now talk a little bit about what you did while you were there. Take us to India. What was your experience like? What were some of the highlights for you of being there, being part of the global residency?
Yeah, so first of all, Jonas's comment around tuk-tuk. So one night, it was me, one of my other classmates, and Jonas, we were in tuk-tuks, and we're riding around Delhi and just having fun, and we were just having a conversation around, the economy and just general, topics that we would discuss, but we were all having fun, and then kind of, we came back, and the next day we had discussions with companies, from executives from companies, a company called Indigo, which is a major airline there. It's a budget airline, and the leadership, somebody from the leadership was there to be able to kind of educate us on, what the company is doing and how they're growing and their strategy for growth in India. And they have such a unique model in how they're growing, how they're able to, bring the customers and kind of, help providing value to customers while growing. And there's some unique structure in place to be able to provide long-term growth, because India is sort of a unique place when you talk about customer service, given it's home to 1.3 billion people. We also had general manager from Oberoi Hotels, which is one of the very well-known, very well-run hotels globally, and they won several awards for their customer service. And just to hear directly from the general manager at Mumbai Hotels, which we stayed at, actually, it was a great hotel, by the way, great location around the beach, Nariman Point, and just to be able to hear directly from him, their approach to customer service and general strategy, I think helps me, think of actions that I can take in my daily life at my work to be able to kind of, improve what I'm doing and how I interact with people. We also had a Darwin alum who actually is with Etsy, in a senior position, and he kind of shared his strategy in growing Etsy, and some of the innovative approaches he's taken in India, given India is a unique market. But that was also kind of nice to see. We had 2 courses there focused. It was strategy and marketing. So both were, really, really interesting courses to take there, given, Bollywood, if you talk about marketing, Bollywood is one of the biggest industries in India, producing, hundreds, if not thousands of films every year. And if we had a very well-known producer, come and talk to us, about Bollywood and her approach to just business in general. So that was also kind of good to see her talk to us just very openly and candidly about the business that she is in.
We also had some dancing.
Also we had Bollywood dancing, and then you should know, Brad, that Jonas. He
have the moves.
Wow, Jonas has the moves. I was very surprised pleasantly.
I'm a switcher, so probably I will consider that.
Yeah, he has some salsa experience, so he was able to really adapt those skills to Bollywood. So overall, it was a great experience, and we also actually visited a yoga clinic, which was a very surreal experience on its own. It's been there for a couple hundred years, and to be able to kind of hear from the guru, the words of wisdom was also inspiring. So I think overall it was a great experience.
So Bhavin, thanks for walking us through everything that y'all did there. An incredible week of activities. It sounds like you pretty much covered everything. And then some of you hung around. Jonas, you mentioned Jaipur, Agra. How about you, Bhavin? Did you hang around for a little while?
I actually went a couple of days earlier just to visit my friends and family. But I think Jonas probably has more important, I guess, updates that he may want to share that may excite our audience here.
Well, overall, it's there's a lot of history in this country, like for many centuries. So you can see, you visit Jaipur specifically, you can see castles, you can see like all this history that the country has. Also, just navigating the cities, it's just an amazing experience. At some point, I remember we were in the bus, and there was of course, people riding motorbikes. Like you can see an entire family, on a motorbike, even babies. And then at some point, it was somebody riding an elephant on the left, and some people riding horses. So it's like 3 centuries in one, in the same city at the same time, and somehow it works. So that was a really great experience. And of course, I would mention the Taj Mahal. It's just a beauty, and it's just a wonder of humankind. And you can see it, and it was an amazing experience just driving down the roads and seeing all the different people, the crafts that you can buy there. I think that, and this is an advice that if for anybody that's traveling to India in the program in the future, I would recommend it to stay a little bit longer and travel around the country. I think some other people went northern to the Himalayas, and there's plenty of options in the country, and it's worth a lot. It's worth it to stay around for a while and really connect to the culture and to the people.
How was the Taj Mahal? I think it's one of those things that people think of as an iconic, Indian landmark. You got to see it. Obviously, you added it on. Was it something that you knew when you were planning the trip? I have to see this. Is that how you were thinking about that?
Yeah, I think it's not that far away from Delhi, so it's worth it. Some people even, I think that they took a bus. Some of the groups just took a bus. I think it's 3 or 4 hours to the Taj Mahal, and you can just go back, and just for the day. It's a lot of bus, but last time, but I think it's worth it. And really, it's incredible how it's really a present for the wife of a king. So yeah, I cannot describe it with words, but it's one of the things that really gets in your memory forever. And I think it's for anybody that goes to Delhi or goes to India, you need to go and see the Taj Mahal. Yeah.
So, Bhavin, you've now been on 4 of these trips. How do you feel like that experience of seeing all 4 locations has enriched your Darden experience or contributed to what you are learning in class? Realize it's sort of a deeper question, but what we have heard from students is that it gets you so much more attuned to the world, to culture, to how all these many things, environment, social context, regulatory, political environment shape business. But I'm curious about your thoughts. You now are on the back end of all 4 global residencies.
Yeah, so it reminds me of I don't want to I don't remember the exact quote, but it was from one of the Apollo astronauts, and it was something along the lines of when they went to the moon and they saw Earth as a marble. They had a different perspective, right? They saw human race as one. Putting all differences aside, color, gender, which country you're from. So, as I visited 4 countries, all I saw was just, humans, right? In their different domains, speaking different languages, doing similar business across the country, right? So I think that's something I learned is everywhere you go, people were, at least to me, they were welcoming, and as long as you're respectful, they were respectful. But one thing I definitely learned is to be able to do business. You say Brazil, India, China, Europe. Something that we learned early on is you have to adapt to the local culture, and you have to adapt fast. We can't expect them to adapt to our ways, whatever the ways those be. We have to adapt to their ways. So I think that's something you have to be able to change to the local culture. I think that's something I learned, and as I visited these countries, and I think that would definitely stay with me forever.
Yeah, think about that in a place like India, where you have all the diversity that you have there. What does it mean to adapt to the local culture when you have so many different local cultures? Did you hear from the companies who, the executives who came and spoke with you, the companies presented? Jonas, I'm curious, how did they talk about dealing with that kind of diversity?
Yeah, specifically in the marketing class, we discussed like how to need, for example, in India, you need to, for a consumer product, you need to deliver to the bottom of the pyramid. Also, we did a case on Tata and the Nano model. So they were trying to come up with a car for this bottom of the pyramid. So, how are you gonna market that car? What is the right price point so it's accessible? But at the same time, you want it to be cheaper, but you want to, for the dealers, you want to have like a certain margin so they can make some money. So there's different perspectives and things you need to consider when if you want to be successful in a country such as India, for example. Other common theme is the supply chain for the Amazons and all those retailers, and they want to deliver. The last mile in India is very challenging, because they're not so well advanced in terms of distribution, and also the infrastructures are of course different. So you need to really completely readapt your strategy, and the timing of the things is also different. So you need to start from scratch and really rely on local partners, and really consider that whatever is working in the US and other economies may not work in India, and so you need to really consider all of those.
So, Bhavin, I'm curious. You have a supply chain background, right? So, thinking about logistics or thinking about reaching the local market, it's much more complicated in a place like India, particularly given the infrastructure challenges. I think we've talked about some of those, whether it's riding on a bus, a tuk-tuk, just the chaos of traffic, or the number of people, 1.3 billion people. What did being there make you think of that? If you with your supply chain sort of logistic sort of hat on, if you're thinking about last mile, your Amazon, you're thinking about some of this stuff.
Well, the first thought that came to me was opportunity, right? As many challenges as one would face, you think about any, a global company, be it Amazon, Google, or any other company, there's a local Flipkart, Snapdeal, those companies. I think one thing that came to me was opportunity. So I think maybe that's the Darden experience that's kind of shaped me to kind of see things differently. Is not just challenges, is opportunities, and how can I solve those, challenges and actually turn them into opportunities. So there are things that the great companies that are there, they're doing to be able to turn these complex challenges into opportunities. But I mean, to be honest, all I saw was opportunities. And the government is doing a lot of great things to be able to kind of enable these last mile deliveries, but again, it's a 1.3 billion people, and it's about the fourth of the size of the U.S. So, you're still going to have challenges, but it's all about kind of rethinking your model to be able to adapt that to fit, specific country. Because you can't this is not a plug and play, right? You can't just take what you do in the U.S. or Europe and just apply it there. You have to really adapt to what the local challenges are, be it infrastructure or culture. I mean, we had a case, we talked about China, right? Disneyland. So it's just all about, really truly understanding and adapting to the culture and, understand from the people, feedback, right? Getting feedback from customers is key, and really digesting that feedback and then, improving on that, the user experience and delivering on, what you set out to do.
Yeah, we saw this back to marketing class. We went through this case on olive oil. So that resonates, of course, coming from Spain. I mean, olive oil is like very, very, I have olive oil every day. So I was like thinking, okay, how do they market olive oil in this here? Because it's not such a common product. I mean, it's not part of the Indian culture, let's say, olive oil. So so there you cannot just push the product. You need to educate the population. And for that, you need to reach the population. Sometimes you cannot just run like a TV ad and think that everybody's going to see it and they will get educated on the product. You need to go all the way down in the chain, go to the mom and pop store, these small stores where most of the population buys their groceries. So, and set up like some kind of ad there, some kind of signs, and really explain the benefits of olive oil. And from there, you can try to push and to market the product. But yeah, it's a completely change of mindset, specifically with this approach as different or as outside of their culture as olive oil, for example.
So I'm thinking about that from the company, or I'm trying to think about that from the company perspective. So you're a large company and you produce olive oil, and to get to the consumer, you have to wind through all of this down to the mom and pop store level. I mean, that is complex. Think about how many mom and pop stores there are in India. How do you not just give up and say, well, maybe we should come up with something else. We should do some other kind of product.
Yeah, I think one thing, it was a good thing Jonas brought that up, because it was a very complex challenge for the company. That we had an executive from, and the way they solved it was just, hey, this is a problem we have to solve, and we have to, adapt to our local Indian delivery model, which is, very fragmented, what they call as kirana stores, which are just small, very, very small shops, which you have, pretty much all across India. And they don't have these big, mega stores like Giants or Walmarts, right? So you have to, figure out a way to deliver that product, but at the same time, build awareness. And it's building and educating the customers, as Jonas put it. There's a cost to it, right? So you also have to account for that cost and make sure, so you have to think about all these things. And that's what the focus was, in our marketing classes, how you actually market their product, but also, think about, not just delivery model, but, the cost that kind of goes into, delivering that product to the customer, so you can kind of, obviously, recoup your money, because in the end, right, in a business, you are trying to make money as much as, you're trying to get your product to the customer.
Yeah, also leverage. I remember, for example, maybe they I don't agree with this because I'm from Spain, but they identify Italy with olive oil. So, so you need to put in your ads maybe pizzas or pasta or any dishes that they can identify, so they get used to the ingredient on some dishes that they already know. That's another way just to get the product to the people. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could probably talk about India for another 2 or 3 hours here on the podcast. We'll maybe have to get it in an after show episode at some point. India continued, but things continued on for you. That was quarter 8, and exciting thing about quarter 9 is this is an elective quarter. So really, outside of the one elective y'all had in quarter 7, this was the first time you'd had an opportunity to choose your classes. Now, I also sort of just like I talked with about the global updates, do want to note that there are now even more electives for students in the class of 2022. So those students will have an opportunity to take 12 electives.
It keeps getting better.
It keeps getting better. This is one of the the themes here because we're listening to everyone. I do want to underscore that these ideas were largely driven by student feedback and input and alumni feedback and input. To me, what that says is people care about the program, right? They want to help make it better. And so 12 electives is a big deal. Even 7 electives, what y'all had is a good amount of choice for executive MBA programs. Now, quarter 9 was the first time you got a chance to choose your classes. So let's start with you, Bhavin. What classes did you choose?
First of all, I'll say I was very excited to be able to choose my own classes. On a serious note, though, I had M&A, mergers and acquisitions. I had pricing, and I had global supply chain.
So Bhavin's joke playing off that we have a core curriculum. For those of you who are still relatively new to our program and learning about Darden's Executive MBA program, you should know that we have a core curriculum that takes somewhere in the neighborhood of about 16 months or so to get through. And then there are more concentrated elective periods that follow. But we do have a core curriculum. General management, you are going to take the greatest hits of business school, so to speak, when you come here. But I do think students always enjoy getting to the electives because, you've gone through the core, you've gotten a broad exposure to a lot of things, maybe discovered some things that you're interested in that you didn't know you were interested in before you started. And now you're getting to pick your classes. And, that's always a fun time to be around. So how about you, Jonas? What classes did you pick?
Well, I took 2 with Bhavin, M&A's, pricing, and I took also entrepreneurial finance. Nice.
So strong list. Let's talk about how you picked the classes that were of interest to you. In the Executive MBA program, we don't have quite as expansive a list as you might see for a residential full-time program. But there's still some choice there. And so how did you pick these classes, Bhavin? What about these classes resonated with you?
Having manufacturing and operations background, global supply chain was a naturally one class that I wanted to pick just because I can get some more exposure and learn more about the global supply chain. The other 2 were pricing and M&A. Pricing I chose just because that's something consumer industry is something that I always wanted to align myself to, and pricing is something I always wanted to learn more about. How do you, the course discusses, how do you price a product, and how do you react when a competitor comes in and then they start competing with you on price. So I think that class really added a lot of value and knowledge from that perspective. And lastly, M&A. Being in consulting, I always want to understand how the mergers and acquisitions transactions are identified, analyzed, and executed. So that class provided a lot of those nitty-gritty details that I was hoping it would provide.
How about you, Jonas? How did you make your elective choices?
Well, there's different factors to balance. One is the topics. For example, I was very interested in M&As. I wanted to know how to navigate an M&A process from both the perspective of the buyer and the seller. Also, we got feedback from the previous class, so that of course it always helps when somebody recommends you a course or a specific professor. For example, with entrepreneurial finance, I was very much interested in entrepreneurship and finance, which I like a lot. And also, I got really great feedback about Susan Chaplinsky, the professor. I really enjoyed that. The course, one of my favorites so far. And with pricing, for example, I also work on business development and I put prices on services and products. So it made a lot of sense to know different techniques of what the rationality behind a price, different lenses. And also, in this case, it was a very flexible course because it had some synchronous sessions, but also a lot of async material so that I could just adapt and take, for example, take 3 classes in a row, something like that. So it worked really well with my schedule. So different reasons, but it worked really well.
Yeah, I would say that's one thing that students may not know necessarily a lot about, the idea of synchronous versus asynchronous. For those of you, again, who are learning a little bit about our program, synchronous for us means live, right? So our distance classes, distance learning is a component of our program. We're a hybrid program. You typically have a couple nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8:30. You'll typically have distance classes, 1 class per night, and those will generally be synchronous classes, meaning everybody's online together. They're live classes, but occasionally there will be what we call asynchronous classes, and these are recorded. The strong preference in our program and from students is, generally speaking, for the live synchronous classes. But there are times when asynchronous makes sense, if something that's a little bit more technical in nature, and students can sort of watch at their own convenience and sort of move more quickly. So for those of you who are wondering about what we mean by synchronous and asynchronous, that's what we mean. So both of you referenced taking courses that align with things you have already had exposure to professionally. You do on a regular basis. I'm curious, what did you learn in those courses? What was surprising to you? Were there things that like, oh man, I've done this forever and I have never thought about that, or any particular takeaways from those courses, Bhavin?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Professor Michael Ho. He did a great job with M&A course. It's a long course in terms of hours when you're here during the residency. But after like a couple hours, I was like, wow, the class is done already, which is always a great feeling, right, when you're a student. But in terms of what I learned, I think one of the things I learned was, when you're within an M&A transaction, or when you're just starting to understand in a mergers and acquisition situation, I thought it was he was going to go into more technical details, which he did and covered very very in detail. But it was the nuances that he captured. There are more like personal relationships, and how you approach those challenges and how you deal with them and on a personal basis, right? So as opposed to like more technical details. So technical details you can master, but it's those nuances that goes with working with maybe for your with your lawyer, or working with if you're a buyer, working with the sellers, right? And have you structure the deal in what sort of fashion you can approach those conversation, and what tone do you use. I think it was those like nuanced approach was really important to me, because technicalities you can find them on Google, right? But it's those nuances which I'm really more interested in to make sure we have a successful M&A transaction in which hopefully you have a win-win, right? So I think for me it was those more of a nuanced approach, focusing on those key details outside of those technicalities which everybody needs to know about. But what gets the deal done is those nuances.
That's a great point, and certainly resonates with us here at Darden, right? That this interpersonal aspect, right? It's not just about technical expertise, that you have to be able to read a room, you have to be able to work with other people. Business is an inherently social enterprise. That very partisan crowd when you think about those kind of things here at the Darden School. So Jonas, how about for you? You mentioned that you'd done some pricing in your work life already. What did you get out of that course?
Well, I think the main thing for me was that traditionally and specifically, I work for an engineering company, so when determining the price that we're going to put on a product or a service, we build it from the lens of cost. So this is the cost of this particular product, considering all the different costs that it has, and then you put a margin on top of it. That's the traditional way. But there's other different lenses that you need to apply when you set a price. Particularly in this course, like we talk about the value. Also, you need to find out about, okay, how the customer is going to perceive the value that this product or these services provides. So there's a lot of behavioral economics behind this, and psychology also. So I never deep dive on those, and that I think that's going to help me also. It's helping me already. And also the third component is the competitors. Okay, so there's similar products or services. How are they priced? Where do I want to be? I want to be really close to the price leader, or behind it a little bit. So there's different. Also, there's like psychology considerations on that. So yeah, so it gave me more tools and different lenses when it comes to setting up a price of a product.
Excellent. So reflecting on that quarter, do you have any favorite memories? I mean, obviously it sounds like y'all had great classes, but anything that stands out for you when you reflect on, man, this really changed my mind, or this particular moment in class, or anything from quarter 9 that really resonated with you in that way?
Yeah, I think like for me, like I would still go back to that M&A, course where it was the focus on. I guess it was a balance between the technicalities of the deal making techniques, right, as well as the interpersonal relationships, and how do you go about approaching, somebody, whether it's your lawyer or an attorney, a seller, just navigating those, different personas, and, at what point do you engage who and in what capacity, and, what are those conversations, typically look like. Having specific examples of that really helped me, because M&A is very, very, very new to me. So, and Michael has a lot of experience, in this. So having to kind of learn from, somebody who's done this many times, gives me confidence that, I can now take, my learning and apply to, in future, should I have an opportunity to be involved in an M&A transaction. I feel very confident in my ability, not just from technical perspective, right? But also from the, how do you deal with the client? How do you deal with the seller or buyer? I think from that perspective, I think I'm very well equipped, in that regard.
How about you, Jonas?
Well, for me, I think was entrepreneurial finance. I think it's a perfect course for both entrepreneurs and people that want to pursue a career in private equity. And I didn't know how private equity funds work, and I understood it really well. Also, how if you want to launch a business, how the different funding rounds of a startup work, all the way to the IPO, how as a founder, how to protect yourself from dilution, and I don't know, just understanding all this ecosystem on entrepreneurship and specifically the finance that is behind it. It was really eye-opening for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to tell us what entrepreneurial finance looks like as a course. The other courses kind of give themselves away a little bit more, what M&A is, mergers and acquisitions, or pricing. Entrepreneurial finance, though, could be any number of things, really. So it sounds like, you read cases about people basically going through funding rounds, or some of the challenges? I'm curious about what that looked like to you, for you from the student perspective.
Yeah. All the cases are based on real companies, which is great. Sometimes the names are disguised, but the professor tells you like the real company that's behind the case at the end of the class. So yeah, of course, there's a lot of math and numbers, which I love. Caters the nerd inside me, the engineer. So, but yeah, it really explains really well how private equity a fund works. Where do they invest? How the managers of the fund get paid back? Also the investors, and all this jargon behind like pre-money valuations, how to value, also the different techniques they use to value both the private equity and the venture capitalists do in Silicon Valley and other areas. So really, for me, it was really eye-opening. But now, if I'm reading another Wall Street Journal or other like magazines on entrepreneurship or finance, I can really understand what it means that this particular enterprise was valued at this point, or this funding round, if it was how how an IPO process is like plays out, and the different like actors and the whole ecosystem for me was really, I don't know, I feel like more prepared just to, for example, to launch a new venture now, or participate in a startup, or even work in private equity.
So in those cases, Susan Chaplinsky leading the class, does she ask you whether you would make the investment, whether you take them up on this? I'm curious about what role the students play in those cases.
Yeah, that's exactly how it starts. Like, before going deep diving into the math, we talk about the case, and yes, the class starts like with a conversation that she asks people, okay, would you invest in this? What do you think about the product that they're offering? Do you think, what are the risks? And then after that, to start digging into the numbers and running the math and see if it's overvalued or not. And what is the share price that they can like offer, or what happens if you invest in the company and later on there's another like investment round? What's going to happen with your ownership of the company, or if you get diluted or not? How can you prevent that? What instruments do you have? And also, okay, what are the risks of going public for a company, and different examples on that, what happened. I mean, the good thing is that it's very, she does a great job because she goes back to what's in the news. So it's very current, and she's a very, very smart professor, and I would recommend this course to anybody that's really interested on knowing more about this.
Yeah, it feels like those conversations can go on for days. Those case discussions probably felt the same way in M&A, Bob, and I imagine that you probably could have those conversations for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're now in quarter 10. What an exciting quarter. Not only is it the second elective quarter, it is also the last quarter right before LR2, which is the last academic activity in the program. So picking up where we began here. So last quarter, what courses are you taking, Bhavin?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to say I'm very excited that it's Q10. As much as I love Darden, right? There's an end in sight. But I'm taking leadership coaching, marketing technology products, and starting new ventures. So those are the 3 electives I'm taking this quarter.
How about you, Jonas?
I'm taking also leadership coaching, marketing technology products, and financial institutions and markets.
All right, so busy quarters for you. It's early days yet. We are recording this during your first on-grounds weekend residency of the quarter. What's jumped out to you from these courses thus far, Bob, and things that you've enjoyed, or surprises that have come up?
Yeah, something leadership coaching. I think I mentioned in one of my podcasts. I continue to praise Connie Dunlop, who teaches this course. Today, actually, we got assigned our personal coaches, which is pretty good. So I have a personal coach I work with, who has a lot of experience, over 30 years experience in the industry, and I get to work with her for the next 5 weeks to be able to kind of leverage her experience, and what are challenges I'm facing with. She's there to help me kind of navigate through that. So I'm really excited. I think coaching is something that I always look forward to. So after we had a self-reflection session today, so coming out of that, I feel really good about what I want to do for the next couple of weeks.
How about you, Jonas? Anything that's jumped out to you thus far about the courses that you're taking here in Q10?
Yeah, also coaching, it's been great already, like meeting my coach, and I'm excited about not just being coached, which I've never been, but also because the course also covers on learning how to coach your employees or people that report to you. So I'm really excited on that. And also I'm on financial institutions and markets, which is, the professor is Yorgos Alayanis, which is, he's one of the best professors in Darden, in my opinion. It's so, like, class is very, it's one of those professors that you can learn a lot in class and also have a lot of fun. And we had the first experience in LR1. So I knew I wanted to take whatever he's teaching. I'm going to take it. And, knowing more about the financial institutions, the banks, how they work compared to like a regular enterprise, the markets, innovation. And I'm also very excited about, there's a module on fintech. So back to I love technology and also like a lot of finance. So I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, Yorgos, one of the professors at Darden who can just go by one name, and you saw him in LR1 teaching Safaricom, and he typically will teach that course as part of that first leadership residency. And then he shows up again here in the elective period. Someone who has I think it's fair to say, larger than life persona within the classroom, lots of energy. I'm sure those have been fun classes, Jonas.
Yeah, the good thing is that it's true that you laugh a lot during class, but you learn a lot. He focuses on the takeaway messages, on the main learning. So yeah, you finish the class and I'm really satisfied because I learned today and I had a lot of fun. So it can't get any better than that.
So Bhavin, we are sitting here. It's Q10, LR2 on the horizon. This is our next to last podcast episode together. We'll record one down in Charlottesville, which will be fun as part of LR2. What are you looking forward to as you finish out quarter 10, move into LR2? What's on your list? Obviously, you got a great slate of courses here. What gets you excited as you think about your remaining on grounds residency?
Yeah, and besides getting my family together with everybody here, and kind of having a big celebration in May, a couple months from now. I think one of the goals that I set for myself with the leadership coaching class is to be able to build a more stronger network that is very warm, meaning that, these are the individuals that, I spent the last few months with. I'd like to really, stay connected, with all my classmates, and for after graduations and even, maybe in future, think of opportunities together, right? So, and be able to, help them out, leverage their expertise, and I'll do the same for them. But it's, starting that preparation now, and really give it some thought in terms of how I'm going to stay connected post-graduation. And maybe even, we're even starting to talk about some events that, we can meet every 3 months or something. But and those conversations are starting to take place now, which are really important because once you leave the program, it's important to kind of keep in touch with these talented individuals. And I think there's some effort that goes into planning and making it happen. So I'm just starting that process right now. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I also get to host the full-time MBA podcast, Experience Darden. Don't know if y'all have listened to that one too, but the second-year students, they talk very similarly to what you just said when they get into the last couple quarters of their program. They say, I want to focus on meeting everybody, anybody that I haven't met, anybody I haven't had a chance to spend significant time with. I really want to make time for that because these relationships are really important. I appreciate so much that you said that because that is a really constant refrain on the Experience Darden podcast, particularly with the second-year students. Jonas, here we are, quarter 10. You got one more on-grounds residency and then LR2. What are you looking forward to? What gets you excited?
Well, I think that, LR2 is going to be a time for reflection and like a wrap-up on put together what we learned and develop a plan and see because so far we're so focused on the quarter-to-quarter like courses, and maybe you will have a more holistic view of the program and the whole experience as a whole. And also, as Bhavin mentioned, I think it's the last time, let's say, there will be reunions, I'm pretty sure, but last time that we'll be together as a class before graduation. So I really want to connect with people that haven't maybe talked that much and really spend those days with my cohort and really deep dive on the relationships and on the connections and get excited about the future and about the prospects and the opportunity to connect into the future as well.
I will say LR2 is always a bit of a bittersweet moment in the program. Everyone's excited to have some more time back in their lives, but there's this thing that hits everybody that they know that this is the last time they'll be with this group of people together in the same way, right? You'll come back for reunions, but you won't have class again in the same way that you have it now. The things, the trips to India, all that kind of stuff, the global residencies, that is something that is unique to the program experience. And so I think it hits people while they're there. So bittersweet, but can we just take a moment as prologue for our last conversation? I just want to reflect on all the things that have happened in the time with the two of you, in the time that we've been recording this podcast. So for our listeners who are new to perhaps this conversation, people who've been listening along all along. So Bhavin, you've been on 4 global residencies. So you've gone, as noted, Brazil, China, Western Europe, and India. Jonas, you went to India. Bhavin, you added a member to your family. Correct. Yes. You and your wife had a child.
Yep, I had a son. It was very interesting. I'll quickly mention that I returned from Brazil and my son was born. I didn't miss that though, so that was good.
One of the truly great stories, I think. You landed and basically went straight to the hospital.
That is correct.
So
I didn't even get a chance to take a shower. So
you get really good at timing and fitting your schedule when you're in Darden. Yeah.
That is correct.
So in addition to that, so you also have had roughly 19, 20-ish months of school at this point. You have taken all of core curriculum. You're now into your second quarter of electives. You've had professional accomplishments along the way. Does it start to hit you at this point, all that you've done in this period? Do you ever have a moment to take stock of what you've accomplished in doing this particular thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, during the leadership coaching session today, I mean, I had a time for reflection, and I was really, really, I felt proud that I was able to learn a lot and in just a matter of months, being with, the classmates that I am with, great talented individuals from all across the country, and learn from all, the professors, that we have. And, at the start, we were just so worried about cold calling, right? All these technicalities that, that any normal student would worry about, right? But, it's kind of keeping the higher goal in mind, right? Enterprise perspective. And, as I look back, I wouldn't trade it for anything, as much as, it's definitely, not easy, right? It's a Darden MBA, so it's not easy, but at the same time, it's definitely well worth it. And I would do it again in a heartbeat.
So Jonas, do you ever have a moment to sort of think back on everything that you've done, or is it a little bit too early for that?
No, I'm starting to do it also with the coaching class. There's this in one of the classes, in the leadership classes, we talk about the firehouse, and the firegrounds. So in order to deliver and to be really effective in the firegrounds, which is like your day-to-day job, you need to have some time to reflect, to put some thought on what you're doing, to get some feedback, and that happens in the firehouse. It's a metaphor. So yeah, we're in this moment that we are thinking about thinking forward in our careers, what the goals we want to accomplish, how are we gonna leverage our MBA, our experience here at Darden, and about this. It's not just, I mean, the technical things and the courses are really important, but it's about your also personal transformation as a leader and as a manager. And I think that's the main takeaway from the MBA for me. It's at the beginning I was a little bit, I wanted to believe on that, but now I'm realizing that it's true, that it's not just what you learn in class, but it's also about, how it changes you and the way you think about, your day-to-day jobs on your, a bunch of different things. But I think when you finish the program and we're getting close to that, you're a different person. That this translates to so many different things for each one of us, but it's true that it's transformative.
Well, we're going to have a lot more time to talk about that during the ultimate episode 6 in our time together. LR2, we're going to make a lot of time for these kind of bigger questions. But I did just want to give people a taste of that, because I don't know, I'm feeling it a little bit being around with your class, realizing that, I just you can tell it in people's body language and demeanor. You can start to feel, that you and your classmates can kind of sense, all right, we're going to keep pushing because, graduation is right there. And it's always fun to be around. It's not to say that the other quarters are not fun, but I always enjoy the energy of the electives because, there is, to your point, both of your points, people are really spending time with their classmates and investing in that and, sort of in being fully present for that. And not to say, again, that that's not happening elsewhere, but there's an urgency about it now because, the clock is ticking. Your time in the program is limited.
Yeah, and I think I would say when you the first couple of quarters, you would see individuals like my classmates really focusing on the cases, which as they should, as all of us should, as good students, right? But now we're putting a little bit more focus on the network building and relationship building and really making sure that the classmates that we have, those are our really good resources, right? And we would like to add, provide value to them, and we'd like to leverage, maybe couple months, couple of years down the road, who knows where we'll all be, right? So I think all of us are kind of realizing that, and you can kind of see that transformation happening, as we speak.
Well, it's been a pleasure, as always, to have you on here. I will say this is one of our longer episodes, but, admittedly, a lot of great stuff to cover. We had 2 quarters of electives to talk about. We'll talk a little bit more about Q10 when we get together down in Charlottesville. And, of course, the global residency in India, which we could have gone on for hours about. I'm so appreciative. I really can't underscore enough that this is a Friday night, Roslyn, Sands Family Grounds. There are planes landing outside. It's dark outside. Listeners, you should believe us on this. And yet, both of you found time at the end of a long day of electives to be here and to do this. I'm so appreciative of it. Jonas, Bhavin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Always a pleasure. Thanks.
And that was the 5th installment in my ongoing conversation series with Jonas Porcar Ferrer and Bhavin Patel, 2 executive format students in our Executive MBA class of 2020. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at that's ExecMBA @darden.virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.